Hi, everyone. Welcome to this week's session of the Virtual Engagement for Student Org series. Today, we're talking about effective marketing in a virtual environment. So for those of you who may be new to the series, we, for a couple weeks now, have been coordinating with 4 different universities: DePaul University, University of Central Oklahoma, Maryville University, and Simpson College, to bring a series about student organization involvement and engagement in this new and different virtual environment. In hearing about interests and areas that students want to hear about, this week's topic, like I mentioned, is effective marketing. So I'm joined by Nicole and Tanisha join me today. So before we get started, we're going to kick off with some introductions. So panelists, how about today we talk about who you are, where you're from, what you do there, and what your favorite thing, favorite concept, brand, idea is to follow on social media. So Nicole, how about you kick us off?
Yeah. Hi, everyone. My name is Nicole Doherty, and I'm the Director of Community Engagement at the University of Central Oklahoma, and we are in Edmond, Oklahoma. Let's see. So my favorite thing recently, I'm obsessed with Enneagrams, so I follow all the Enneagram accounts, and so I love them because they're creative and they think of like all these different things and they're constantly posting. My one frustration is that I'm a 9, and so I always have to wait for my stuff to come because you see them start and then you have to wait for them to get through the numbers.
I'm laughing a little bit because our staff really love Enneagrams. And as you probably remember, Nicole, I don't really care for those.
Yeah.
Any of them. Like I'm a gold. If Mary's what, I think I'm an 8 wing 7 or something. Like I'm all the thing. Like I know all my things. It's not my cup of tea. But I'm glad you still follow it all these years later. Yeah. Yeah. How about you, Tanisha?
Hi, everyone. I'm Tanisha Arnold, one of the assistant directors in student involvement at DePaul University here in Chicago, Illinois. And I oversee the areas of programming. So that includes student orgs, campus activities, sponsorship for the office, and then the marketing team. I would say a brand that I am following on multiple platforms is Tasty. So I just always enjoy their little tutorials. I like to eat, so why not?
Yeah, that's a great one. Yeah, and then, hey, everybody, my name's Courtney James. She, her, and her pronouns. I serve as the Director of Student Involvement at DePaul University, but this is a fun one for me today because I also used to work at UCO. So my favorite brands to follow, right now I've really been into, there's this account called Check Your Privilege, which I think is particularly relevant right now, and with the announcement or what happened with the people who murdered Breonna Taylor not being held accountable yesterday. For me, it's just been a very helpful account to follow, and they do a really great job. They both have spectacular content, but also displayed in a very unique and engaging way. So it's been a really helpful account for me personally, and I think they do a great job of sharing information. So, for our viewers who are watching, if you have any questions about marketing or engagement that you'd like to ask today's panelists, feel free to post them in the comments. We're doing this session live, so happy to answer those questions. But to kick us off here, I'm curious if you can, each talk a little bit about some of the components of an effective marketing campaign or a marketing strategy. What are some of those core elements that you really think lend itself to create an effective marketing campaign?
Well, I'll start with that. So I think one of the first things that comes to mind is establishing an identity and branding. So, whether that's a student organization doing that, even if you think about it from a department level, I think that's an important part of the foundation to have established because, once people can recognize you, whether that's by a logo or other different types of identifiers, they will continue to kind of point it out whenever they see it, that like, oh, that's student involvement right there. I know that that's an event that they're putting on. I think utilizing social media is a part of the effective marketing plan. It continues to be relevant today. Websites, email marketing, but I think you have to be careful with email marketing, especially in the times that we're in now, because people are constantly getting emails about things. Then, of course, like video content, that's a creative way to change up the types of marketing content that you're putting out there.
Yeah, I'll add to that. The one thing that always comes to my mind in the world of student organizations, at least, is that it's truly, you need a campaign. And so that takes like some thought process and like paper and pen to like write it out of like, this is what we're going to do at certain points. It's usually not just like kind of going on a whim. And so using things to like kind of get that brand through multiple posts. And like, if you have an upcoming event or meeting or something that you are pushing out there, that it's more than just one post, that there's like kind of a constant build up and lead up so that people have a chance to see it and prepare for it. And if they are interested in it, build it into their schedule, and just like taking some time to actually think through a process of getting that information out there.
Yeah, I think that's a really important part, Nicole. I think that consistency is really undervalued sometimes when it comes to social media. I think particularly some of our student organizations oftentimes think like, well, I posted it once and everybody knows what's going on. Well, the way that the human mind works, research actually shows for most people, it takes them 3 times to see something before they actually remember it or it sticks. So posting something once, unless it is, like a really earth-shattering thing, they're realistically not going to remember it. So you've got to figure out a way in a campaign to get things in front of them 3 times. And I think that speaks to consistency. So frequent or posting in different platforms, but having that consistent message out, I think is really, really important. Yeah. And Tanisha, I really appreciated what you said too about videos. I think like that is something we're seeing more and more frequently. It's this merger of both picture content or text content in combination with those videos. One of the things one of my majors when I was, way back when and when I was in college was English. And I feel like we kind of have seen the demise of the novel. Because we went from reading novels to short stories to magazines to paragraph books to tweets and now we're just looking at pictures. Like people are reading less, but now it's even like part of that storytelling is like we're going even from like just this culture of just tweets to like videos. And like that's why things like TikTok are so important right now. And like because it's truly like that's what people are looking for and where they're spending a lot of their time. So, on the flip side, what doesn't work? Like, what are some of the things that haven't worked or that you think might be a little bit old or outdated, or even things from your experience? What things aren't working when it comes to marketing?
I mean, kind of along the same lines is just making sure that you're posting more than once on one platform and assuming that everybody sees it. But I also think a big piece of it that doesn't work is just like to create things without strategy. And so if you are using a student organization account and you only have 12 followers, thinking that is like getting out there. So without like a plan in place to first build followers and then kind of do those steps in advance, I think that is not working. And then also posting the exact same thing on every platform. I think it's important to like curate the content, and sometimes time gets the best of us and we don't have time to do that. And that's okay. But if you have the time to thoughtfully plan out a campaign, like Facebook should be different from Twitter, should be different from a TikTok account, should be different than an Instagram account. And they don't have to be huge differences, but even just some wording and some phrasing that you use. If you aren't doing that, then you're not using each of those platforms to get kind of the biggest bang for the buck. And so making sure that you're actually thinking of what goes into each of those pieces.
I think that 2 things that come to mind, and both of them are kind of focused on like the social media component. I think one of them is like oversaturating social media platforms with content. Oftentimes you'll see, it doesn't matter who it is, whether it's individual student groups, departments, whoever, there may be 10, 15 posts in one day. And I think if you take like Instagram, for example, like if you're doing 10 to 15 posts on your page a day, like a lot of that's going to get lost because as people are visiting that platform, they may see something that you posted 5 hours ago, but they may not see the thing that you just posted, 12 minutes ago. So I think that there has to be a careful balance between like the frequency of posting that content throughout the day. I think another thing that I think about is oftentimes groups rely heavily on just one platform to get the message out that they're trying to convey to their audiences. And sure, that one platform may be serving the purpose. However, just think about all the other audiences out there who may be available on other platforms that you may be missing out on because you haven't expanded your imagination and your thought process to venture out to other platforms.
Yeah. Well, and I think, Tanisha, one of the other things I think about particularly when you talk about when there's like 15 or 16 posts in a day, I think a structural setup that student organizations in particular sometimes make is that they create these really big teams where there's like 5, 6, 7 people posting. And in theory, I think that people by nature have this thought of like, the more people here, the more hands to help, the better. And that's not necessarily the case, I think, particularly when it comes to marketing and social media in particular, because it does either one of two things. Either one, it's these huge posts that happen all the time, or two, there's so many people responsible that actually no one is. So no one ends up doing anything. So there's no frequency, there's no recurring posts, there's no consistent information going out. And there's like the shared responsibility actually is detrimental to the organization. So I always recommend to student organizations, have one person be the lead. You can have people create or submit content, but there always should be one sole student in charge of it. Like that distributive leadership when it comes to marketing is not always effective unless you're curating it in a really special way.
For sure. I think even when I think about the student marketing team that I oversee, like there's one student that focuses on social media and hey, Nikki, if you're watching. And so like she creates a calendar and there's certain things that she schedules out in her social media postings, but also, she still gives room for those maybe unexpected posts that need to be put out there, maybe at the last minute or other things that may come out throughout the week that needs to be shared.
Yeah. I think especially on Instagram, there's a lot of advantage of the difference between a post and a story, and like not everything that's a story needs to be on a post, and opposite of planning those out. That's like on our calendar, we have them all in like the different colors of like, this needs to be a story content today. And maybe we'll make some slides that are pre-selected for that, but only one of those things is going to be actually posted on the actual feed. And so kind of learning the balance and advantages of using both of them.
Yeah. So, I'm curious a little bit. We know now, obviously, no matter where our students are and where they're watching from, they're living during this pandemic. So I'm curious, what do you all think is the same in terms of marketing from before the pandemic versus what is different in this, our new reality?
So I think that, starting with what's different. So oftentimes people want to utilize printed materials to help share the word about what's going on in their respective groups. And so, right now during COVID, a lot of our students are doing class from their homes and they're not on campus. So like those printed materials are not necessarily going to serve the purpose that they would before if we all were in person. Now, sure, there are some people who are on campus, but I think that if people are relying heavily on those printed materials, that's no longer going to be the best option since we are, experiencing this pandemic right now. I think things that have stayed the same. I know we've talked a lot about this platform, but social media has stayed the same. That's where the people are, and there's multiple platforms for people to utilize to share the word. I think if anything, people have pushed more towards social media since other outlets are no longer as effective as they were prior to the pandemic. I think one more thing is like the use of websites to display and share information. Like they were relevant before and they continue to be relevant now, because now we're pushing people to our websites to, whether it's download information or view a video or what have you, we're driving traffic to that platform.
Yeah, I would agree on terms of same. I think social media never was dying, but it's making its comeback if it needed to. And so that's where everyone is. And so just making sure, again, that you're posting on all of the different types, just in case someone doesn't have one form or another, is important. And kind of differences that I've seen. I was joking the other day that the QR code got its like rebirth during the pandemic. And so there's a lot on our campus of marketing is word of mouth and having tables out in the middle of campus. And we can still do that, but you do want to make sure that you're being safe and distancing. And so a great way to do kind of, here's all of our information, is make that big poster with the QR code to a website or a social media platform or a PDF document or something like that. And so just kind of finding different ways. Our poster boards have not been full at all, but there's still quite a few events going on campus. And so you can definitely see the pull away from posters for most things that aren't like signature campus events, that kind of, we do need that poster because it's going to more people than just students on campus. But definitely making sure that everything is on social media, on a website, has links that can be easily accessed. We found ourselves using Linktree a lot more often because we just have so many documents and sites that are out there at one time, where normally we would be able to like interchange the one link you get on Instagram. But that was a great discovery, I guess. I know it's been around for a while, but we had never used it in our office before. And so it's been really helpful as we've had multiple things going on with no other print media out there.
Yeah, so Nicole, I think that lends itself a little bit to our next question here. Are there any new or different strategies that you've been using in the pandemic that you found particularly effective? So you talk a little bit about Linktree as a means to connect, but other things that perhaps you've been doing that are helpful as well.
We have tried to do, create more videos. We're a small office of people, and so we can't do big productions by any means, but it's been really helpful just that we normally would have like presentations on campus with community organizations that we work with, but being able to use Instagram Live and Instagram TV and kind of saving a whole series of content there was something that we had never done before, and I'm sure other areas have, but it was a new area for us to kind of connect our students on campus with outside people without asking those people either to come to campus and be in front of people, or sending students out to interview or meet people in a time where they shouldn't necessarily be out all the time.
And something new that we've used at DePaul is actually on our student engagement platform. We call it D-Hub. But for other student affairs professionals, that's campus groups, if you have that platform. And so actually on that platform, we created a group, and it's called the Digital Engagement Network, also known as the DEN. And basically, this was created to be a one-stop shop for all of our students to learn about the virtual opportunities happening at DePaul. So, when we made this transition back in March, we were like, how do we get as much information as possible in one place, and then we can just direct them to a website to find all of these things. So yes, we created the DEN. Weekly newsletters are sent with the upcoming events and other programs and services that are going on that particular week. And, we have a lot of people that are in that group right now. And so, we're just excited that we were able to come together and put together a new group on this platform for people to look for virtual opportunities.
Well, and I think that one of the other great parts about the DEN, and, particularly, I know our panelists today, DePaul and UCO, both utilize campus groups, but one of the great parts about campus groups as well, students may not realize this, but particularly if you have been checking people into your events, you have been creating a database for yourself. And whether you realize it or not, there is a ton of information there. So, for example, I serve as the advisor for our Student Government Association, and they have been talking about starting to send a weekly newsletter. And, obviously we know most student organizations cannot send campus-wide emails without a lot of hoops that you have to go through. Well, we went into SGA's campus groups platforms, D-Hub platform, and it turns out they have 1,100 contacts that they've been building over the years because they've been checking people into events. They've been, collecting information. They've been putting it all there. So your campus groups page, D-Hub specifically at DePaul, your pages probably have a lot of contacts and a lot of information that you just don't even necessarily realize. So, Nicole talks a little bit about like utilizing QR codes. We've been using a lot of QR codes in our events and clicking links to get people checked in. But it's all so that we can build those networks so that we can better connect with students as well. So it really is a great opportunity and a great way to really lean into that a little bit more. And it's a new and different strategy, right? Because if they checked into something that you did previously, they probably have at least somewhat of an interest in your organization or group. So figuring out how to leverage that and utilize it, I think, can be really, really helpful. So we've talked a little bit about videos here. I'm curious if we could dive a little bit more into how can you effectively utilize videos with your marketing? What are some strategies that you all have seen or that you've utilized on your campus, and how can student organizations really optimize it? Anybody? Did I freeze?
No. No, you didn't freeze. I was just sitting here kind of thinking. I
have two very introspective people. And for our viewers, I both previously was Nicole's supervisor and currently am Tanisha's. So this is I also kind of laugh a little bit because I know how you're both thinking right now. So I'm like, yep, we're just gonna sit here and wait.
I guess I'll start for us. We personally in our office have not done tons of like pre-recorded videos. We've done a lot more Instagram lives of introductions, but I have seen groups using that. I think the most hits that I always see on social media is if they see a real person, because people see their friends, they see themselves as a student in that post. And so I think it does really help to have a live person there talking about things. And so I've seen it for groups using it to do like introductions of all of their officers, of their members, member spotlights, different things like that, whether which is a step further than just posting on their platform a picture of them, but having them like do a takeover or just an introduction of themselves either on a story or in a permanent video that stays there for a while. And so I think it provides that human connection which we probably all need a little bit more of right now than just seeing some colors on a page and pictures as we scroll. And so you actually like get to hear a voice and communicate in a way with someone and learn something about them at the same time.
Mm-hmm. I think kind of similar to what Nicole mentioned, we at DePaul have done a mixture of things via video. So of course, the live videos have been pretty effective for us, and we did a variety of those throughout our most recent Welcome Week programming that we did. But also, like the pre-recorded videos had received a lot of views, and so some of those pre-recorded videos, could look like a series, like introducing whether. We have like a Get Involved series to spotlight different student organizations, or it could just be learning more about campus partners that we have in their services that they offer. Also, it could be announcing upcoming events. So like if you wanted to do a preview of the week's events, we have done some of those videos too, where we introduce that. Because of course, people see pictures with, content on them and links to websites, but I think it's good to change it up and put a face with the group or the department that's hosting those opportunities for people. Also, I think that videos can be used for maybe explaining further information that you're trying to share. So tutorials, for example, I've seen quite a few of those videos out there because, again, you can read a document or a PDF and read those instructions. But if someone puts their face and voice to it, that may, and also share their screen in that video to kind of show you around. I think that's helpful to sharing information too. So yeah, I think I've seen a variety of things. And then I think last but not least, like spring quarter, especially in student org community, as they were gearing up for their elections, usually they would be in person and give their speeches and campaign for those positions. But I really appreciated seeing student groups utilize video to help market themselves in their campaigns and share information about their upcoming election processes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Tanisha, I want to reiterate, one of the favorite videos, and we haven't done them consistently, but I think it actually is on my to-do list. So this is, people are getting a little peek behind the curtain, but also something I want us to do more frequently are those like what's happening this week is like, because I think about it in terms of, people watch TV shows on a regular basis, right? And granted now with streaming services and things, it's a little bit different. They can watch it whenever they want, but people are a creature of habits, and they like to see that you can train people to engage or participate in something weekly in the same thing at the same time. And we're even seeing it with some of our programming. Like people will come back for the same program week after week because they do it. There is a reason that we are doing these every Thursday at 3:00, because I can bet that we have some viewers that come and check in every Thursday at 3:00 because they know it's going to be there. So even it doesn't have to be live every single time. You can do premiere videos, but you can post it at the exact same time. But I think that there's a lot of merit and value in getting people in the habit of knowing when information is going to go out. And it might be that week 1, 2, 3, 4, even 5, it might seem like things are going to deaf ears, but you are slowly conditioning them to learn where to find that information and to get more and more engaged. A great example of how I can use to talk about that is actually in our esports community. So we have a cycle that every Monday we post a message to our Discord community about what's coming up for the week. And then on Tuesdays, we send out a weekly email. We do that very intentionally so that we know our students who are involved in that Discord community know that they can expect the message to come out every single Monday or Tuesday, depending on how they're looking for it. And at first, it took a little while, but now we're seeing better engagement in our events and programs because they know where to go and they know where to get it. It's in the exact same place. It's on the exact same day at a relatively similar time. But that consistency, I think, really goes a long way for folks. And especially with video content, if you can integrate that too.
Yeah.
So some of our students might be, watching this and they might be thinking like, well, yeah, like you all are professional staff. You have resources and things available to you that we don't have as student organizations. So I'm curious, I think people might be surprised that we do this with probably a lot less resources than you realize. So what platforms or apps, and particularly free ones, if you don't mind sharing, what platforms or apps do you utilize to help you with marketing? And if there is a cost, if you wouldn't mind sharing that too.
I mean, I'll just start and throw out Canva. I am a lifelong Adobe fan. Like for the longest time, you couldn't get me to use Canva because I was like, I know how to use Adobe and do real graphic design. But especially I've found in this time, it does take a lot more creative juice to start on a completely blank piece of screen in front of you and come up with the designs and stuff. And so especially right now where our mind and our bandwidth is a little bit more taken up with some stuff that we can't control, I found that Canva has been the most helpful thing. And I always suggest trying to create your own things on Canva because you start seeing repeats through a lot of groups if they just use the templates. But start with a template and change some things up, and it really gives you a good basis to just get some words on a background. And then as you learn other things, expand on that and upload pictures and kind of start creating it as your own. But I have the Adobe suite and I use it every now and then, but when I'm trying to do quick things, Canva is a lifesaver, and it helps me just search the images really quick. They're already there, ready to be used. You can add cool animations, and like enough to make it look pizzazzy, without it actually being that pizzazzy.
There was one website that the students shared with me called Poster My Wall. And so it's a free website, and kind of similar to Canva. You can create your digital materials and other posters and flyers, and, kind of make it look the way you want it to look. But honestly, something, the most basic level is that you'd be surprised what you could create on like Publisher and like a PowerPoint. So like if you don't have access to some of these other resources, like, with a few clicks here and there and some copy paste, like you can make something look as if like you've done it on one of these platforms. And oftentimes, like, I have no like marketing skills whatsoever, but there's been a few times I've really whipped up some stuff in Publisher and PowerPoint, especially like when I don't have access to the graphic design team or they're super busy with something. So don't want to forget about those two things on the most simple level. And then also like, another platform that people have been using is Tribute, which I know, Courtney, you shared that with us, with our student involvement team, and also our programming board, DAB, has been using it for some different things. So like if you want to put together video content, but maybe you don't feel confident in your video editing skills, or, putting it together the way you want it, that's a platform that you can use. I think there may be a free trial to start off with, and then costs thereafter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's Tribute. I think it's spectacular. It like Tanisha mentioned, it allows you to compile videos so people can submit their thoughts, and then it very quickly and easily edits it for you. And it's a very nominal charge. It's like $25, I think, which, for the cost that you would have to hire an external video editor, it's very, very helpful. But Tanisha, it's funny you mentioned Publisher. I, like you, I've just been exploring my PC to see what it has and what I can utilize. And like, I've been doing very baseline video editing, even in the pictures feature. There's a Windows video editor, which is similar to iMovie, for our Mac users. I think that people oftentimes think about like, I have had to have had this graphic design or video background, but a lot of this technology is really, really easy. And I have an iPhone. I've used the iPhone video editor or the movie maker to make, videos there to help put sound behind things and just make things a little bit more exciting. And it's just that timely content. I think that we spend a lot of time trying to picture it and get like this line right and this color right. But sometimes we forget about like timely is oftentimes more important than exactly perfect, right? So like doing something with a quick turnaround, I think sometimes people react better to that than even like this spectacularly produced piece that you might have too, because especially as student organizations, you all are giving grace that some of our brands and things that we follow might not be given. So I think that take that grace, right? Take that grace and take that opportunity to not get it exactly perfect.
Yeah, I learned how to do everything on Publisher way back before I had the opportunity to use Adobe, and you can do so much. You can make PowerPoints and then animate them, and they become videos really quickly. It takes a little bit of time, but if you're overwhelmed or daunted by the video editing services, PowerPoint, which most people feel a little bit more comfortable with, is a good option. I would say the game changer is to download some fonts. And so that they're not just the average fonts that you see. So there's tons of websites out there that you can download fonts from, and they save them to your computer. And so I think you can tell when someone's using Times New Roman, but if you go find a really cool, bold, flashy font, then it changes completely what it looks like.
Mm-hmm. And that goes back to the beginning, I think, with what Tanisha was talking about with like the brand identity. Like you talk about fonts. We found lemon milk a few years ago, and like DePaul uses lemon milk for like everything now, like that is our font.
I love that font.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So, as we head into our last question here for our viewers, if you have any other questions for today's panelists, again, feel free to post them in the comments. But we know that part of an effective marketing, especially in a virtual environment that utilizes a lot of social media, is building a network, right? It's building this network for sharing and promotion. So do you have any tips for our students who are looking to either expand their network or perhaps build it for the first time?
Yeah, I would say for student organizations especially, find kind of like student organizations that are similar in like the crowds that you might be trying to attract with your organization events, or just like similar in like we're both academic based organizations, or we're both religious organizations, or we're both insert organization type here, and reach out to them, whether that be through campus groups or your campus platform, or just like send them a direct message on Instagram and say like, hey, would you mind sharing the post that we just put out there? If you can share ours, we can share yours. And you can even do the same with some offices on campus. So if your organization falls within an office, make sure that you have that stated, like with that office, that we're going to put it on our story, or we're going to retweet it or something like that to get that information out there further. And so I think a lot of times we hope that people will find what we post interesting, so they're just going to do it on their own. But there's also no harm in kind of having those agreements behind the scenes of like, hey, if you will tag us, we will always share your stuff, and we'll tag you if you'll share ours. And so it just gets kind of that next level out there. And then on the other side is make sure you know kind of what all the avenues are on your campus to promote things. Do you have electronic boards that you can push posters to? Do you have shared accounts from your university that will push your stuff out there? Is there a weekly email going out? Is there a way to do a student email blast, and different things like that? Or is out of your student organization's office, can you submit things to go in their newsletter? And so just knowing what all those opportunities are, and like almost like make a checklist of like, for every event, have we done all of these things? And like make a goal of how many times you want to do those things leading up to the event. That's reasonable. You can't do it every day, obviously, but do we want to do it a week out and then the day before, or something like that? And just make sure that you're covering all those bases on campus.
I think Nicole pretty much covered a lot of the helpful tips about building that network. But I think, again, in thinking about working with the student that I work with that works with marketing and stuff, she's been able to connect with other student groups and departments and identify who their marketing contact point is. And so they, frequently exchange information about events and other programs and services that are going on. I think something helpful that our department has access to is this social media working group that has a lot of people at the university who oversee marketing accounts. And so, that's a great way to share information too. Now, I think when you think about like a student organization, again, if they're underneath that department, that may be an opportunity for information to be shared that way. But then also like sometimes like your student involvements or student activities offices may provide a space for you to submit information to be included on their platform. So I know for us in student involvement, like we have a form on D-Hub where, if a student organization requests to have like something included on our social media, we'll review it. And if we're able to share it, then, we can share it that way. But again, I think a lot of it is like tagging us and stuff, and then resharing that information out there.
Yeah. Well, Nicole, Tanisha, thank you so much for taking some time today to join us and talk a little bit about marketing. We know for our student organization viewers, this has been a very dynamic time. So I know I had some moments to reflect and think about how even we could improve some things with the orgs that I work with. But for our viewers, we will be back next week for our next series or our next topic. Next week, we are talking about fraternity and sorority life specifically. So we'll be talking about engaging your fraternity and sorority life communities virtually. So we'll have representatives from our different institutions joining that day to talk as well. We've also, on all of these pages, we've got archives about everything we've been talking about so far. So we have topics, we've done conversations about hosting meetings virtually, team building, and then obviously here now with talking about marketing a little bit. But all of those resources are available on all 4 universities' Facebook accounts as well. So for everyone, keep up the good work. Stay at it. We know that a lot of folks are about to hit that they're quickly going to be approaching midterms. So if there's anything that your specific student activities or student involvement office can do to help and support you, I'm confident in saying for all 4 of our universities, they would be happy to help. So until next time, we will talk to you all soon. Bye-bye, everybody.